Your turn, Yugi boy.
What is up, guys? This is Lintheo coming at you with a discussion today about the effects of the ban list and how I personally think it's actually affected more rogue decks than it has meta. So as we said, the Forbidden Unlimited list dropped a little few weeks ago, and there have been a few changes in the meta as to what is run and what isn't. But majoritively, it's kind of the same. But there is an interesting thing that I have noticed, especially from building my non-meta decks, that there have been some pretty heavy hits for generically non-meta archetypes. So some of the biggest hits were simply Chicken Game that got banned, and Upstart that went to 1. They were 6 draw cards that were used in a lot of non-meta decks. Reason being is to speed up the consistency of the decks to keep up with, simply, the actual meta decks that are out there now. I used Upstart and Chicken Games in loads of different decks. In my most recent Toon deck that I had to change up, just before the ban list, I had Chicken Games and I also had Upstarts to simply get to my Toon Kingdom as quickly as possible. In the Utopia deck, I also used both of those cards, as well as Pseudo Spaces, to just keep on drawing. That's between a minimum of 6 to 9 cards that are just basically trying to dig through the deck. If you include Pseudo Space, obviously, with the Chicken Games, that's where the other 3 come from. But then you also use the things like Terraforming, which increases the amount of consistency and deck thinning that you possibly might get. Now, it doesn't mean to say that you're always going to get the maximum amount of consistency with all these. No, you can completely brick and draw Pseudo Spaces and that's it. But that's not the point. The point is that these non-meta decks that people enjoy playing, like myself, a lot of people out there enjoy playing non-meta decks because that archetype might be one of their favorites, or they just like the way it runs, or it's the only one they can afford right now. They got hit quite badly because they now have a big chunk missing from them, from their consistency, and now have to look at other draw cards. One Day Peace is at 1 still. Still should be, by the way, that card is insane. Upstart's at 1, Chicken Game's banned, so people might have to look at, say, Pod of Duality for more consistency cards, but then that does have a problem of you can't special summon, so it stuns yourself. There are a lot of draw cards out there, but there are never any good ones that really help you, like Upstart, like Chicken Game. We have Card of Demise that has come out recently that I think has basically replaced Chicken Game and Upstart, because in Konami's eyes, I feel the release of Card of Demise meant that if Upstart and Chicken Game were still in the game, it would mean there would be too many generic draw cards available for the player base, and to enable a lot more FTKs and OTKs. Magical Explosion and Life Equalizer didn't get hit at all because they decided to go after the draw cards, which is simply what it looks like. Because it's a lot more difficult to put spell cards basically into the graveyard for the fuel of Magical Explosion. But now with Card of Demise coming out, it does give the players a bit of a choice. However, Card of Demise's restrictions, not being able to special summon for the turn, and for your opponent to receive no damage once the card has been activated, so you can still activate it in your main phase too, means that a lot of decks have got a consistency hit, and they have slowed down to the point they're not really playable anymore. Now you might say, well, if you've been hit by Upstarts and Chicken Games and your deck is no longer playable, then it was probably garbage in the first place. Well, you do have a point, but that's not the actual point that I'm getting at. People want to try and play these decks. There are many reasons why people play them, as I listed before, and it is fun for them. But when you go up against a deck that you're just going to get completely trounced at, and you know your deck isn't up to par, it's kind of discouraging. I personally don't mind if I get beat. It's just a game, I'm enjoying it, I don't really care. Clearly what a loser would say, but whatever. It's just very interesting for me because it really does look like, if you look at the Forbidden Unlimited list and you look at what decks got hit, weren't really many decks that actually in the meta did get hit. Everyone thought Performer Palace was dead, Pendulum was dead. Yeah, no, it's still one of the best decks of the format, probably just behind Burning Abyss, PK Fire, whatever you want to call it. It is quite ironic that the decks that weren't really doing anything are the ones that got hit the most. Sometimes it happens, you have to be indirectly hit, like Herald of Perfection getting the Preparational Rites hit back in the Necros days, but I digress. So I want to know what you guys think of the effects of the Forbidden Unlimited list. What decks do you think have really got hit? Are you in agreement with me as one of those players who does play a non-meta deck that used to play the Upstart Goblins and the Chicken Games, that you've now lost a lot of consistency because of those hits? And have you explored with anything else to replace them? So as I said, let me know down in the comment section below. Make sure to give me a like, comment, subscribe, and I shall catch you guys later.